Hey guys, welcome back! Let's discover this amazing package named Power, Corruption and Lies, composed by 4 incredible games back from the MS-DOS era. And we only need a 386 machine running at 33 MHz to be able to enjoy it. This compilation was released and published by Bo Jolly around 1995 exclusively for DOS machines, right before Windows 95 arrived to stores. And the games included are Dune II Battle for Arrakis, Beneath a Steel Sky, F-14 Fleet Defender and UFO Enemy Unknown. This is a gorgeous box that brings a lot of good memories from the glory days of DOS gaming. Played so much all 4 games back in the day, and these are among my favorites of all time. Beneath a Steel Sky is even included on my top 10 video related to point-and-click graphic adventures. Check it out if you missed it. All 4 games bundled are the CD-ROM versions, which is great. I try to grab the CD versions of those older games, cause these tend to be more practical than floppy disks, obviously. And many CD versions comes packed with extra stuff, like soundtracks, voices, etc, etc. Not in this particular case though. So let's take a peek inside. Do you remember when games used to bring a manual? Yeah, a substantial manual. Nowadays it's just a piece of paper, but back in the day these were like novels that we would take to bed at night and read till we fall asleep. And have you played UFO Enemy Unknown? If you're not familiar with it, just wait a bit more and I'll show you some footage in the end of this video. Back then, few were the ones that had access to the World Wide Web, so we needed to have these players' handbooks or strategy manuals explaining in detail how to play these games. And from all 4 games, Beneath a Steel Sky is probably the most straightforward. UFO Enemy Unknown, Dune II and F-14 requires a high level of strategy and patience to appreciate them fully. Dune II was first released for PC and later ported to the Amiga and the Mega Drive. It blew my mind the first time I played it, and it set the bar for future real-time strategy games. This one is also known as Dune II: The Building of a Dynasty in other regions of the globe, and the development team got inspiration in games such as Populous and Civilization. As said, Beneath the Steel Sky is a more straightforward game. As you know, it's a point-and-click graphic adventure that came from the makers of the amazing Lure of the Temptress and later offered us the amazing Broken Sword series. This was one of the last graphic adventures that I've played from start to finish. By then, games like Doom 2 and Star Wars Dark Forces were in the horizon and the PC market was already focused on bringing first-person 3D action games, leaving the point-and-click graphic adventure genre behind. So what else is included in this beast of a box? Yeah, some registration cards, why not? An important info leaflet with customer service details stating that we should contact the number and address provided and not the original publisher of these games, whose info is printed in their respective manuals. Then there's this technical supplement related to UFO Enemy Unknown with instructions on how to install the game and the required specs for running it. Back then, many of us would run onto problems related to conventional memory, so this technical supplement would also help us on creating a boot disk that would allow to free more conventional memory for games. There's also a CD-ROM supplement exclusively related to the version bundled in this compilation, cause UFO Enemy Unknown was originally released in floppy disks. Also provided are loading instructions for F-14 Fleet Defender and Dune II. We can play these games directly from CD or install them onto the hard drive. Then there's the basic flying guide for F-14 Fleet Defender that, as the name suggests, offers the most common thing for a flight sim, like taking off, navigation and landing. This way we wouldn't have to look onto the main and huge manual searching for these basic instructions. A key reference card is also provided explaining what key on the keyboard does what in-game. Practically every single key does something in these flight simulators. And finally the main manual for Fleet Defender, this huge and heavy manual that offers, besides the normal and usual stuff, an historical background on the F-14 Tomcat before tackling all those missions. It would take the player on an exhaustive lesson, not only about the plane you're about to fly, but also across every bit of the game, from the main screen through the scramble screen, campaign, briefing, options, settings, weapons, etc, etc. Everything is explained in this manual: the career mode, simulation controls, again a deeper look onto the flight control keys, radar controls, weapon controls, head-up display controls, the various simulation views, all the way up to the hardware controls with the various and different joystick configurations if we happen to have a dedicated flight stick that were a really expensive piece of hardware back in the day. Included is a how to fly chapter teaching us about flight dynamics, gravity, g-forces, fuel management, navigation, and even when to bail out. So I guess that after we get familiar with all of this, we were ready to fly a real fighter plane. Again, these were the days of incredible packages filled with goodies, and we didn't have to pay a fortune to get all this physical content. So time to install all 4 games and increase even more the dose of nostalgia. Starting with Dune II. As I said previously, this game set the bar for real-time strategy games that would come later. So many followed this winning formula, also because Dune 2 was the first real-time strategy game to use a full mouse control. As you all know, we act as a commanding officer, building up forces and then dispatching them across the battlefield. It's based on the bestseller by Frank Herbert and was developed by Westwood Studios back in 1992. It revolves around harvesting resources, the spice, to building the battle units necessary to lead to victory, one of the houses available. Many players would recall better the Command & Conquer series, also from Westwood Studios, but it was here, on Dune 2, that all that good stuff started.
Enemy units destroyed. Harkonnen harvester deployed.
I've already talked so much about Beneath a Steel Sky in this video and on my top 10 point-and-click dedicated episode. It came from Revolution Software back in 1994, a sort of interactive comic book with cutscenes by the amazing Dave Gibbons, the man behind the Watchmen comics.
It's gone crazy! Maybe I'd get
The amazing detail on each and every background, the comical twist, this was as good as anything coming from Sierra or LucasArts back in the day, and again, it's one of my favorite graphic adventures ever released. For more info, please watch my top 10 video by clicking the link on the top right of the screen.
What's going on? That chopper's a write-off. I was lucky to get out alive.
F-14 Fleet Defender was considered back then as one of the most complicated and realistic PC air combat simulators ever created. It was developed and published in 1995 by the masters on the business, Microprose, and it was a PC exclusive title both on DOS and on Windows 95. It was another title that set the bar for the genre, and only very stubborn and patient guys like myself would try and learn all the controls and stuff. It was, with no doubt, an extremely huge time-consuming piece of software, but totally worth it in my opinion. Nowadays I don't have all that patience for this type of games anymore, even so, the nostalgia lives on.
Cut power! Cut power!
UFO Enemy Unknown is also known as XCOM UFO Defense, and it was, again, developed by Microprose with a little help from Mythos Games. It was initially available for DOS and the Amiga back in 1994, and later ported to the PlayStation. In this one, we're a commander of XCOM, a force devoted to combating extraterrestrial threats, and this game combines strategic resource management with turn-based tactical fighting. Building bases all around the planet Earth, taking down UFOs, developing research capabilities, investigating spacecrafts and creating more devastating weapons are basically the main goals in this game. What really turned Enemy Unknown into such a memorable game after all these years was that progression and decisions of what to do next was entirely up to us, the players. A truly groundbreaking game, no doubt. So guys, hope you've enjoyed this journey back in time to the glorious days of DOS gaming that I will be bringing more and more in the near future, so expect a ton of videos similar to this one really soon. Tell me down in the comment section below if you've played any of these games and if you also miss the good old days of messing around with conventional memory and boot disks. In the meanwhile, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe and to smash that bell icon so that you're notified when my next video becomes available. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you all in my next episode.